Welcome to Late Night Story. When the world goes silent and shadows stretch longer, some stories awaken, whispered only to those still awake. So put on your headphones, turn down the lights, and let me guide you through the quiet hours. If you're listening alone, you're exactly where you need to be. If everyone can leave a comment to let me know where you are listening from in the world, don't forget to subscribe before you drift too far into the dark.
Story 1. My new neighbor has been messing with my head. The guy moved in late last Saturday night. I know, because I woke up near midnight to him ramming his U-Haul into the dumpster outside my bedroom. From my second-story window, I watched as he stepped out to inspect the damage. He was tall, almost as tall as a U-Haul, and when he put his hand on his hip, the gap between his arm and chest must have been big enough to fit a medicine ball. I considered going out to help him, but I really didn't want to open that can of worms. I went back to bed, reassuring myself that he'd probably appreciate my pretending I hadn't seen anything. There was a knock at my door early the next morning, and you can't imagine my surprise when I looked through the peephole to see that same man, well, from the chest down. I only knew it was the same guy because I recognized the white button down. What the hell was he doing at my door at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning? Did he see me watching him? Was he mad that I hadn't come out to help? I almost didn't answer, but I knew I'd have to face him eventually. I prepared an excuse before opening the door. He stepped back and released a wide, toothless smile. He looked sick. His skin was gray and his lips were black. He extended his hand and said, "Let's hang out." No emotion, just the bare words, like Google Translate except high-pitched and excited. A happy cartoon character. As a 6-foot-tall man, I craned my neck to look up at him. As I met his gaze, something came over me. A strange pleasure of familiarity, like I was back at my parents' house and my mom was baking cookies. I felt the urge to say yes. Simultaneously, I could appreciate the oddness. I didn't know this guy, even if part of me did. Somehow, I fought with myself, figuratively stepping in and out of the door as his smile never relented. "Not right now, Mikey," I said. I hesitated, then closed and locked the door. It wasn't until I was back in bed that I realized. How the hell did I know his name? But the memory faded like a dream. At first I was certain his name was Mikey, but by the time I fell asleep, I was sure that I'd just thrown a random name out. Did I even know a Mikey? I woke up a few hours later and spent the day playing video games and watching Friends. I felt uneasy, but I've always had a bad taste in my mouth when it comes to Sundays. This weird feeling that it's going to be the last good day of my life. Like the next day is the end of all happiness and the start of eternal torture. Maybe I just hate my job more than most people. Around 5:30 a.m. Monday morning, there was another knock. "You gotta be fucking kidding me. Seriously, dude?" I said as I opened the door. He held both hands out, palms up as a presenting treasure. Atop them was the most beautiful pastry I've ever seen. It was fluffy like a cloud, but brown and crispy. It was drizzled with chocolate, peanut butter, and caramel. I reached for it and was bombarded with memories as I took the beauty into my hand. I was at Mikey's house. I was sitting at a wooden kitchen table as he frosted a beautiful cupcake decorated to look like a rose. My mouth watered as he delivered it to me like a present. I sunk my teeth into it and sighed with relief. He was my best friend. I'd known him since childhood. I wanted to give him a hug. But at the same time my heart was rising in my throat, threatening to choke me as I had the feeling of people watching me from every angle. "Let's hang out," Mikey said, reaching for me. I took a step forward, the two sides of my brain fighting for control, and slammed the door shut. Looking down at my hands, I saw 2 pieces of bread with half a dozen crude slabs of peanut butter and jelly. Some on top of the sandwich, some underneath, and some on each side. It was like it was made by someone who didn't know what a sandwich was. I dropped on the floor. At work, I couldn't keep my mind off him. As I sat at my desk, vaguely trying to edit the introduction to some algebra textbook, I was sure that I had never seen him before. But I had the memories of memories, like once, in a dream within a dream from a different life centuries ago. We have been best friends. I fought my way through the day. I told myself I wasn't going to answer the door for him ever again. If I saw him, I'd run away. Under no circumstances would I look at him, talk to him, or touch him. I drove home. I wasn't 2 steps out of my car when he approached me. "Let's hang out," he said. I tried to turn away, but then my life was sunshine and rainbows. I couldn't help but smile. Without bending his back, he leaned his face down to mine. We locked eyes. I can't remember what they looked like, but I remember what they made me feel, what they made me remember. I was a toddler on a swing set. I was smiling and laughing. Behind me, the tall man, Mikey, was the one smiling as he pushed me again and again. Then it was my birthday. I watched as Mikey lit my candles. He sparked the lighter with his gray hands, his yellow nails longer than his fingers. On the baseball field, he was my coach. At school, he was my favorite teacher. I remember me and Mikey sitting in the back seat of my car. There were butterflies in my chest. I leaned in and kissed his black, rotting lips. I felt disgust but remembered love. "Let's hang out," he said. And then I was following him because he was my everything. He was every good thing I could remember. But no, I didn't know him. I imagined walking into his apartment. I smiled and screamed. I wanted to run away, but I'd miss him so much. We walked to his door as my mind screamed for me to run. He was reaching for the knob when some animalistic part of my brain took hold of me. I ran to my apartment and locked the door behind me. When I heard a knock, I grabbed my phone and called the police. I told them there was a guy who kept knocking on my door and wouldn't stop no matter how many times I told him to go away. I watched from my bedroom window as the officer pulled up. I took a peek through my peephole and saw that Mikey was still there. I sat next to the door and waited. "Tommy, what's going on, man? Long time no see. Let's hang out." "Of course, man. I really can't thank you enough for last time." I looked through the peephole to see them walking away. A door opened and closed. Then I heard screams. I called out of work the next day, and a couple police officers came by. I told them the truth, minus all the weird stuff. They knocked on every apartment, but nothing ever came of it. I'm pretty sure I heard some happy laughter and sounds of reunion when they knocked on Mikey's door. It's been a week since then, and I haven't left my apartment. I got fired, and I'm starting to run out of food. I know I'll have to leave eventually, but what happens if I run into him? Right now, I'm certain he's dangerous. But what will I think if I see him again? What will I say when he asks me to hang out? What will I remember? What will I do? Story 2. A perfect woman. I'll just take these boxes downstairs to the garage. I tell my boyfriend Chase, putting another holiday serving platter in the cardboard box. "I'll take it for you, sweetheart. I know how heavy all 100 of your Christmas platters are," he says, smiling mischievously and kissing me on the cheek. "Hey!" I laugh, swatting his arm. I want to be prepared if we ever have one of those Christmas parties like the movies where dozens of people come and I save Christmas somehow. He laughs and picks up the box. "You're right. I need to be manifesting that for you." He winks and disappears down the stairs, shutting the door behind him. My spring cleaning has run amok in the house, but I think I've got the last of it sorted. Our house isn't huge. We have a 2-story house with 4 bedrooms. Beautiful exterior. I just wish it had more storage. I smooth the bedspread on the now cleaned guest bedroom and smile at the room before closing the door behind me. Chase is coming in from the garage when I come downstairs. "Boxes all put away?" I ask. "Yes, but we officially can never buy anything else ever again." He laughs, opening the fridge to grab a beer. "Well, when we get our next house, I need more storage. The attic is too small and I want a basement. We can turn it into your man cave too." I smile, wiggling my eyebrows. He smiles at me, a lazy smile. After 5 years together, he still gives me butterflies. "Anything you want, sweetheart." And that goes for dinner too. What are you thinking? He leans back on the counter, opening a food delivery app on his phone. Chinese? I would love to learn how to make Mongolian beef at home to save money, but unfortunately you do not love me for my cooking skills. I tell him, looking into the fridge with a sigh. Ah, yes. How could I forget when you so infamously almost burned down this very kitchen the first time you came over? After you insisted you could cook us a whole meal, he sneaks up behind me and wraps his arms around me, making me squeal. See, I can't possibly be your dream woman. I can't even cook. I whine between giggles. He smooths my hair. I have everything I need, he says earnestly. More butterflies. Once our takeout comes, we're eating in front of the TV when I hear a tapping sound. Do you hear that? I ask. Chase responds, not looking up from his takeout container. It's a tapping sound. Is it coming from the dining room? I put my food down and get up to walk that way. Babe, I don't hear anything. Could be a pipe. This house was old when I got it, and it's even older now. He calls from the living room. When I reach the dining room, I still hear it. I'm starting to pull out furniture to inspect when I hear a hard thump. Then the tapping stops. I rush back into the room, and Chase is picking up his beer bottle off the floor. Foamy, brown liquid is now staining the rug. God, I'm so sorry. I reach for my beer and I knocked it off the table. Could you grab me a towel? He asks, moving his food to the coffee table. Of course. I'll be right back. I grab him a towel, and we clean it together. Comes right up. Did you figure out the tapping? He asks me, picking up our trash. Oh. No, I didn't. Must have been a pipe. I respond, looking back toward the dining room. He nods. If you want, I can call the plumber to come out and check everything, just to make sure it's not something important. He says, heading toward the kitchen. Oh no, I'm sure it's fine. I'll let you know if I hear again. I smile. Later that night, after we had gone to bed, I wake up with a startle. I'm gasping, covered in sweat, and shakily looking for the switch to the lamp at my bedside table. Chase? Chase, I whisper. The lamp flares to light. Chase isn't next to me. Chase, I say a little louder. Silence. I get up and walk to the bathroom. Sometimes when he can't sleep, he will take a shower. The bathroom is empty, but I take time to splash my face with water. He must have wanted a midnight snack. He's probably downstairs. Chase, I call out at normal volume. I am just passing my doorway, heading towards the stairs, when I see Chase. He's halfway up. He looks relieved to see me. Sweetie, hey, are you okay? He asks quickly, taking my hands and looking at my face. Oh, yes. I just had a nightmare. I can't even remember what it was about. I trail off, looking at him. He looks red, and like he broke a sweat running to the stairs. Are you all right? I ask. Yeah, I'm good. Sorry. I went downstairs to watch TV, and I must have dozed off. You calling my name woke me up, and I thought you were hurt. So I ran upstairs to check on you. My adrenaline is through the roof right now. He laughs, but it doesn't meet his eyes. Oh, honey, I coo. You're my white knight, always trying to save me. What do you say? We make use of that adrenaline. I playfully tease my finger on his shoulder. He smiles and shakes his head. Oh, I would love to, but I'm all frazzled right now. How about I take a shower and we snuggle instead? He asks, wrapping me into a hug. Of course, that's probably the right idea. I respond. Once he's done in the shower, we do exactly that. The next evening, Chase has his monthly work dinner. He's an anesthesiologist, so the money is great, but his co-workers, not so much. You sure you'll be all right? He asks, checking his tie in our hallway mirror. Yes, I'll be fine. I respond. We do this little routine every month. I'll catch up on all my obnoxious reality TV you hate. I don't know about that. TV is broken. He responds, still focusing on the mirror. Since when? I ask. Dinner yesterday. Some of the beer splashed on the box. I'll get a new one this weekend, don't worry. He says, smiling, turning toward me. But you were watching it last night, I thought. That's why you came downstairs. I say, and it comes out sharper than I intend. His expression doesn't change. Oh, well, yeah. I tried to come down to watch it. That's when I noticed it was broken, so I fell asleep. Sorry, I thought I mentioned that. He explains with that easy smile. No worries, I'll just read. Go knock them dead tonight. You always do, I say, giving him a good luck kiss. I wave at his car leaving the driveway, and I turn and go back to the living room. I pick up my current book club read and open up the next chapter. I start to hear it again. Tapping. Jesus, really? I say, putting my bookmark back in and heading to the dining room. It's softer tapping this time, but still steady. Tap, tap, tap. I take out my phone and send a message to Chase. Tapping is back. We should call plumber tomorrow. I put my phone in my pocket and look around. I pull up rugs, looking for any pipe leaking. Tap, tap, tap. This is so weird. I mumble. I look at the china hutch. It's been there since I moved in. It's ugly as sin, but Chase says it's a pain to move. It belonged to his grandmother, I think. If any pipe is broken, it's behind that old thing. I push my shoulder into it and start to scoot it. To my shock, it moves pretty easily. I move a few inches when my phone starts to ring. It's Chase's ringtone. I hit the green answer button. Hey, sorry, I know you're driving. I start. Hey, he says, so the tapping is back? Same room. Yeah, I've been moving stuff around to see if there's any water leakage, but I don't see anything. I trail off, looking at the floor next to the massive hutch I just moved. Oh, sweetie, you don't need to move anything around. You'll hurt yourself. Just go relax in the bath. I'll check it out tomorrow. He tells me. He sound off. I can't tell why. Yeah, maybe you're right. I just tried to move your grandma's hutch, and it is pretty heavy. I laugh softly into the phone. He's quiet for a moment. Then he bursts out in an exaggerated laugh. Yeah, it's really heavy, such a pain. I'll get the plumber to help tomorrow. Just don't touch anything else tonight. Just relax. He says frantically. Okay, I won't. I reply cautiously. Ugh, I'm sorry. I'm just worried about you hurting yourself. I'll deal with all that stuff tomorrow. Just go and try to relax. Okay, I tell him. I will. Promise? He asks, and I can hear his blinker turn on. Yes, I promise. I respond, still looking at the hutch. Okay, I love you. I'll call you when I'm on the way home. He tells me, and I can hear him putting the car in park. He must be at the restaurant. Love you, bye. I tell him before hanging up and sliding my phone back into my pocket. Why didn't he want me moving things? I'm not picking things up really. I'm just scooting. He seemed to get really stressed about me moving the hutch. The tapping starts again. Tap, tap, tap. I don't think it's a pipe. Maybe an animal got in the wall? I put my ear up to the sliver wall. I clear from moving the hutch and listen. The tapping is coming from this wall, against Chase's wishes. I put my side against the hutch and move it the rest of the way. It moves easily, too easily. I lean down and notice tiny furniture slides have been placed underneath it already. That's odd. I've never seen this thing move before. When I stand back up, the wall seems blank, the wood paneling uniform. I start knocking on the wall, trying to figure out if some critter is hiding. Once I move over the panel directly in front of me, the sound changes. The wall seems different here. I run my fingers along the panel and lightly push. The wall moves. I jump back and gasp. It's a door. It slowly opens and reveals a staircase. The tapping continues and it's louder. I'm shaking by this point. How did I not know there was a basement? All our neighbors had one, and I was so confused why we didn't. I take out my phone flashlight and head toward the stairs. Slowly, the tapping grows louder as I descend the dark stairs. The light is shaking from my hands. When I reach the bottom step, I flash the light around. It looks like a seemingly normal basement, just some old boxes. The tapping is coming from my right. I shine my light over there, and I see a door with a key next to it, hanging on the wall. I put my ear up to the door, and I hear the tapping mixed with soft music. What the hell? I whisper. I try the door, but it's locked. So I try the key hanging next to it. It opens, slowly. Warm light fills the basement as the door opens, and the music grows louder. I look around the room, and it is not what I expected. It looks like an apartment. There's a couch, A TV, a hallway leading to more rooms. I follow the tapping to the kitchen. There's a woman standing there at the counter. Her back is to me, but I can tell what she's doing. She's chopping vegetables. Tap, tap, tap. The knife rocking back and forth against a wooden cutting board. She chops something green and then slides it into a bowl. Darling, you're early. Dinner is almost ready, she sings, turning over her shoulder. She gasps when she sees me. She steps back, holding a knife. Who are you? She demands. Who am I? You're in my basement, I yell. She studies me. This is my home, and I will kindly ask you to leave. It isn't time yet, she says calmly, still holding the knife. I'm in shock. She has an apron, her hair and makeup are done, and she's wearing heels. What is? I don't know what. I'm stammering. I can feel myself getting nauseous, and I'm trying to breathe. Something over my shoulder catches her attention, and she sighs in relief. Darling, I'm so glad you're home. Is this her? She seems confused, she says, putting the knife down. I slowly turn over my shoulder, and standing in the doorway is Chase. His face is a picture. It's a mixture of horror and shock. Darling? I whisper. Baby, I can explain. He takes a step towards me. Daddy? A little voice squeals from the hallway to my right. A small boy runs up to Chase with his arms in the air. Chase picks him up, but his eyes haven't left me the whole time. The woman walks over to Chase and kisses him on the cheek. She is just dreadful, walking into my home and yelling at me. I thought she would be nicer. She shakes her head at me in disapproval. You thought? What? I shriek. I can explain. Please just try to listen. Chase says, putting the child down and walking to me. Come on, Liam. I'll give you your bath. The woman says, pushing past us into the hallway with the boy. I'm going to be sick. I say out loud. Chase reaches for me. Don't touch me, I scream. He freezes. How long? I demand. How long has she been down here? He smiles sadly, and I have my answer. You're disgusting, I seethe, and we are done. I push past him and head for stairs. Baby, please. Just listen. This could work. Her name is Julia, and she is almost perfect. She can't make me laugh like you can. We don't get along as well. But she cooks and she cleans all the stuff you hate. So together, you're a perfect woman. Am I wrong for one of my two girls under one roof? He asks, crossing into the dining room with me. So you lock her down there? I yell. No. Well, yes, just until you were okay with the arrangement. And then we could all live together, he pleads. We've been together 5 years. You're sick? I whisper. Baby, just hear me out. This could work. You could be best friends, sisters even. He follows me up the stairs into our shared bedroom. We will not be sisters. I am getting my things and leaving now. And you can have Julia and your son, I scream, throwing things in my suitcase. You're not even giving it a chance. I thought you were different. He whispers, yet, well, I thought you didn't want kids, so we are both surprised right now. I say, slamming the suitcase and heading to the stairs. I already have Liam. I don't need another. He wasn't planned. He tells me, following me. I really don't care anymore. You are sick and disgusting, and I am leaving. I say, turning to face the door. From behind me, his voice changes. I'm sorry in advance, he says. I feel a sharp pinch of pain, and then everything goes dark. When I wake up, warm light fills my vision. Am I dreaming? I lift my head. I feel hungover. Tap, tap, tap. I look up and realize where I am. I'm in the apartment from the basement. I go to stand, and I see my clothes are different. I'm wearing heels, my hair feels curled, and I can feel lipstick on my lips. Liam is sitting on the floor in front of me, watching an old cartoon. I stand and run to the door I entered from the last time I was here. It's locked. I cry in frustration. Tap, tap, tap. Are you okay? A tiny voice asks. I just stare at the boy and shake my head slowly. I have candy. I can give you some, if you want, he states with a smile. I shake my head. No, thank you though. I answer, I colored you this while you were sleeping. He shuffles papers in front of him before handing me a picture. It's a pink flower. Thank you, I say hesitantly. He smiles at me. I think he's waiting for me to say something else. Where is your mom? I ask him. He shrugs and turns back to the TV. I turn around and slowly step toward the kitchen. Julia is cutting vegetables for what looks like a pot roast. Soft music is playing from a radio next to her. When she hears me, she turns to me smiling. Oh, good. You're awake. You can help me make the salad, she says, handing me a head of lettuce. What? What is going on? I ask her, looking around the room. She puts down the vegetables and crosses to me. She puts her hand on my arm and smiles sadly. I know this is hard, but trust me, it's easier to just do what he says. She tells me, what do you mean? I ask her. Just trust me, she says, before turning back to her cooking and that insufferable sound. Tap, tap, tap. W.I. Are you so calm? I ask her. She puts her knife down and turns to me, a forced smile. Chase and I used to fight a lot. He said it wasn't working. And it wasn't. He was right, but then I was pregnant. And it was a wonderful surprise. She says, smiling at Liam engrossed in a kid's show about a boy with a magic flute. Liam is my life, she continues. Chase made me an offer. He said if I stay down here, cook dinner for him every night, clean the upstairs when asked, and get along with whatever new wife he brings in, listen to his cues, basically be on call for all his needs. He will take care of us financially forever. I don't have any family, any education, and he's helping me. She smiles tightly. It doesn't reach her eyes. His cues, I ask, like if I'm being too loud. He will stomp his foot or something as a warning. He gets upset if I don't listen, so you'll have to learn that. She says, turning back around, the beer bottle. He didn't accidentally knock it over, so he expects me to just live down here. I ask, oh no, not forever. Just until you're trained. She answers bluntly. Tap, tap, tap. He thinks we can be the perfect wife. She whispers, putting the lid on the Dutch oven. And besides, she says, putting the roast in the oven, he tells me we can teach each other things. Maybe you can give Liam a sibling one day. I'm gonna be sick. The clock on the wall chimes. Oh, Chase will be here any minute. I'll pick up. You, check yourself so you look perfect. He likes that. She rushes out before disappearing to the living room. In her movements, I finally see she's terrified. I hear the door begin to unlock. Quick, she says, clear the dishes for me off the counter. In a haze, I turn around and put the cutting board and dirty bowls in the sink. The door opens. Honeys, I'm home, Chase's booming voice calls. Julia goes up to him immediately to offer him a kiss. I'm still standing by the counter when he approaches me, ruffling Liam's hair along the way. And how are my favorite girls today? He says, but directed towards me. I see Julia over his shoulder have a panicked look on her face. And I don't know why, but I want to protect her. I give him an easy smile, like I used to. We are great. Julia and I are fast friends, and she is a whiz in the kitchen. Would you like your salad now? I smile. His eyes sparkle in happiness. Yes, I would. Thank you. He kisses my forehead. I'm gonna go wash up. Let's go, buddy. He takes Liam down the hallway to where I'm assuming the bathroom is. I'll set the table, Julia says, lightly touching my arm. Then she mouths, thank you, before turning away to the table. I watch her with curiosity, while I hear Liam giggling down the hallway. I will save them both. I clutch the knife behind my back that Julia was chopping the vegetables with, and slide it into my apron pocket, while Julia's back is turned. I will save all of us. Story 3. My organ donor was a serial killer. I don't know what to do. I don't even know who I am anymore. There's something inside me, and it's not mine. I can't sleep, can't think, can't even look at myself anymore. This isn't some cry for help. This isn't fiction. This is me leaving a record, because if I lose everything in God, am I fucking close? I need someone to know the truth, because I should be dead. In some ways, I think I am. It started a year ago. I was 32, healthy, normal, working in a tire factory. The days were long, the hours sucked, but I was alive. I had someone who loved me. I had a little apartment. I had routines. I had a heartbeat. Until I didn't. Cardiac arrest. Out of nowhere. No warning, no chest pain. Just lights out, face first between two massive OTR tires. My co-worker said my lips were blue by the time they got to me. Paramedics shocked me 3 times on the floor. I flatlined. 6 minutes. No oxygen. No pulse. Then somehow I came back. I remember flashes. Needles. Screaming. A nurse crying. The voice of a doctor saying, "You shouldn't be here." But I was. They said I was lucky. A miracle. 1 in a million. I didn't feel like a miracle. I felt wrong. Like something got rewired on the way back. I spent the next 9 months waiting for a donor. My heart was too damaged. They said it was like driving a total car. It might move, but eventually it'd fail. I lost everything in those 9 months. My girlfriend left me. It's funny how easily people you thought loved you will scatter the moment you can't provide them with anything. I wasn't sleeping very well anymore. My skin felt too tight. I jolt awake thinking my heart had stopped. Sometimes I wished it would. I prayed, and I'm not religious, but I prayed. Not just for healing, but for anything, for it to end, one way or the other. Then one night, the phone rang. They had a match. A heart. Perfect fit. No complications. It was happening now. I remember being wheeled into the OR, sobbing so hard I couldn't breathe. The anesthesiologist smiled and said, "This is your second chance." He had no idea how wrong he was. I woke up in a nightmare. I was freezing, not shivering, not cold, freezing, like I'd been submerged in a lake in January. I was drenched in sweat, but my fingertips were blue. I couldn't stop shaking. My jaw locked so tight from chattering I cracked a molar. My chest ached, not from incision, but from something cold behind my sternum. The nurse smiled. "It's the anesthesia," she said. "It'll pass." It didn't. It never did. Even now I'm always cold. Doesn't matter the weather. Blankets, heaters, hot showers. It's like something inside me doesn't know how to hold heat. The cold lives in my bones, in my chest, in my heart. Then the dream started, always the same. Fluorescent lights, a white tile room that smells like bleach and meat, a chair bolted to the floor, leather restraints, rust-colored stains on the tiles, someone strapped in, male, female, young, old. It changes, but they're always gagged, always wide-eyed, always shaking. Then there's me, not me now, but something in me, watching, circling, smiling. There's no sound in the dream, just this horrible hum, like electricity through concrete. The lights buzz, the air tastes like copper. In the dream, I'm always holding something, a scalpel, a pipe, a knife, a torch. I knew these were all tools used for nothing good. I don't remember using any of them, but I would wake up with the weight of the tools still in my hands. The worst part? I enjoy it. I wake up with my fists clenched, my breathing slow and steady like I just finished a ritual. There's blood under my fingernails, sometimes wet, sometimes dried. There are no cuts on me, no wounds, just that metallic stink on my sheets and that taste in my mouth like burnt pennies. I tried everything, meds, therapy, journaling. My doctor said it was trauma, psychosomatic cold sensitivity. He called it survivor's guilt, depression, PTSD. None of that explains the scar. Not the one across my chest. That was expected. This one was on the inside of my left forearm. A thin, healed exhale. Smooth. Years old. It hadn't been there before the surgery. I know my body. Every mole. Every freckle. That scar doesn't belong to me. That's when I went to an old friend of mine that works in medical billing for a hospital system. Has access to transplant data. I begged him to find the name of my donor. He said it was sealed, but a bottle of bourbon and a breakdown in his living room changed that. He pulled it up. I'll never forget the way his face changed, like he was watching something rot in real time. "Oh shit," he whispered. "You're not going to want to know this." But I needed to. The name was redacted, but the notes weren't. Convicted murderer. Torture. 9 confirmed victims. All ages. He kept them in a basement. Soundproof. White tiles. Fluorescent lights. Just like my dreams. They said he turned himself in. No remorse. Just walked into a police station and said, "My work is complete." He died on death row. No family to claim the body. However, he'd signed the organ donor form. Things got worse after that. I started blacking out, awakening in alleys, stairwells, parking garages, once in a supply closet with a box cutter in my hand, and blood in the sink. I couldn't explain it, couldn't prove it, couldn't stop it. I started noticing the smells first. Bleach, rust, damp concrete, following me like a shadow. Then came the urges. I'd sit in my car outside grocery stores, just watching. People, their routines, their vulnerabilities. I'd imagine what they'd sound like if they screamed, what they'd look like begging. One night, I followed a woman for 7 blocks before I even realized what I was doing. I was 2 steps from her building when I came to, fists clenched so tight my nails left half moons in my palms. I ran, collapsed in the street, threw up in a gutter. I swore I'd never do it again. The next night, I dreamed of her face. I went back to the hospital, found the surgeon who did the transplant, told him I needed the heart out. He smiled like I was joking. "You're alive," he said. "That heart saved you." No, it replaced me. Then came the worst night. I woke up in my empty bathtub, fully clothed. There was a knife on the edge of the tub. My hands were bloody, my clothes soaked in blood. My mouth tasted like iron, blood all over the floor. The blood wasn't mine. No report, no missing person matching what I remembered. Maybe he's smarter now. Maybe he's learning through me. I haven't slept since. I don't think I can. He doesn't dream. He remembers. He relives. And now, so do I. Every scream, every second in that room, every flicker of the lights. I feel it. He's not a voice, not a hallucination. He's not possessing me. He's beating inside me. I tried to resist. I really did, but he doesn't ask permission. Last night, I picked up the knife again. This time, I didn't drop it. This time, my hands were steady. And for the first time in months, I wasn't cold, not even a little. Story 4. I can't hear laughter anymore. It's quite true what they say. You only miss something once it is taken from you. On October 3rd, 2003, I stopped hearing laughter. It happened at Frank's barbecue party. Frank was my closest friend, and he loved nothing more than to drink, sing, and laugh. He was the heart of every gathering. It was a beautiful day. The backyard smelled of freshly cut grass and smoky sausages. I could hear birds chirping above, meat sizzling on the grill. A soft breeze gently shook the trees and whistled past me. We were all huddled in a circle, beers in hand, exchanging the small, forgettable details of our lives. Fred was swamped with hospital work. Rob's 3 noisy kids occupied most of his time. John told us about his recent divorce and his newfound hatred towards his ex-wife. I think that soured the mood a little. Frank, being himself, decided to break up the awkward silence with a joke. I don't recall exactly what he said. At that moment, I was busy pondering empty words of comfort for John. Whatever it was, Frank's joke must have been extremely funny, because everyone laughed. At least, that's what I thought they were doing. In perfect harmony, my friends opened their mouths, their faces contorted with glee, bodies trembling in excitement, shoulders bouncing up and down. Their smiles twisted, and they shook like puppets on invisible strings. But no sound came out. I could feel my entire body tighten. A violent chill ran down my back. It felt like an eternity. All I could do was watch in dread, as my friends convulsed silently in front of me. Meanwhile, the birds kept chirping. The sausages kept sizzling. Frank was the first to break the silence. "Tom." Frank's smile faded. "Are you all right?" he asked. I mumbled some excuse and said I should be going home. They were sad to see me leave, albeit somewhat confused. As I walked to my car, I heard Frank tell another joke. I didn't hear a reaction. That night, I told my wife, "Sarah, what happened?" She raised an eyebrow. "You're saying you can't hear people laugh?" Sarah asked, grinning. "Yes, exactly. I see them laugh but hear nothing." I replied, completely serious. Sarah gently shook her shoulders and smiled wide. I assumed it was a chuckle. "It's late. You're tired. Why don't we get some sleep and see if you hear anything tomorrow?" With that, we went to bed. But the next day, the laughter did not return, nor the day after, or the day after that. Over the next few weeks, I became obsessed with my condition. I would watch comedy performances online, entranced by the eerie silence of the audience. I would eavesdrop on Sarah's phone calls with her friends, noting the occasional awkward gaps in conversation that followed a joke. Sarah grew increasingly concerned. The worst incident occurred at her birthday dinner, in her favorite restaurant. My mind was strangely at peace, and I was happy to simply sit there and enjoy everyone's company. Sarah's sister was telling some ridiculous story about her son misbehaving at school. Then suddenly, everyone at the table burst into motion. The room went silent. My heart got stuck in my throat. I knew what was happening. I watched my wife throw her head back, mouth open wide in a huge smile. She shook as though something was alive inside her, clawing and clambering to get out, her face crinkled with delight, tremoring hysterically. Sarah's sister smacked the table with one arm, clutching her chest with the other. All I could hear was the thud of her arm landing on wood. Tears began to stream from everyone's eyes as they convulsed all around me, their laughter silent as the void. I should have been laughing with them. Instead, I sat there, frozen in horror. The joyous occasion had turned into a hellish nightmare. That was the last time I saw Sarah smile. You see, when something disappears, however small, it can leave a bottomless pit in your world. A deep, gaping hole that will never be filled by anything else. If the hole is big enough, other things will begin to fall inside. That's how I lost my family. My friends, my wife, they all fell into the abyss that was left behind by the sound of laughter. Sarah called me crazy. She wept, tried with all her heart to understand what was wrong with me. I couldn't stand the sight of her. I kept replaying scenes in my head, where at her happiest moments, she looked like a monster, the love of my life. Someone who once felt so warm and safe suddenly made me shudder and freeze over with terror. Loneliness fell over me like a ghostly cloak. I lost contact with everyone. I learned to despise myself, to blame my fragile mind for dragging my life into ruin. I told myself that if I had simply tolerated these isolated incidents of laughter, I would still have my dearest people close to me. Of course, deep inside, I knew this was impossible. I could not bear to look upon any of them again. All I could see was their sinister trembling, their shaking shoulders and their red, strained eyes. For years, I could never understand what was wrong with me. Then there came a day when I stopped trying to. Asterisk, I started telling you this story in the afternoon. Now, as I finish, night has fallen. This night is darker than usual. I peer out my window and am confronted with black, endless void. My house is awfully still. I hear nothing but my occasional ragged breathing. I've grown old, and with each day I can feel my body turning on me. One of these days, I hope morning would come and I wouldn't wake. I would finally be free from my curse. However, retelling my story brought me immense relief. I felt young again. I remember my family, my friends, my wife, their laughter. Perhaps I needed to get it off my chest. I'm tired now. My eyes are growing heavy. The world is about to fade into a dream. But then I hear it, a noise from somewhere on the other end of the house. I jolt awake. My heart thuds in my chest. My mind is racing. I listen again. There it is. A sound around the corner and down the hall. In the darkness, a deep guttural sound. A sound I hadn't heard in decades. A laugh, thin, raspy, breathless. It grows louder, closer. They say you only miss something once it's taken from you. Sometimes it's better not to get it back. Story 5. No one else would help my grandma. I wish I hadn't. I came back to Cold Creek, West Virginia, because no one else would. My aunt's in Florida. My cousin stopped answering the group chat after Grandma asked where their mother was for the 3rd time that week. My dad's dead. That left me. She didn't need a phone call, not a ride to the doctor. She needed someone in the house, someone to make sure the stove got turned off, someone to stop her from wandering barefoot into the woods at night. I wasn't the best person for it, just the last one still breathing who hadn't blocked her number. So I packed a duffel, left a note for my boss, and drove east through the hills until the cell signal dropped and the trees got tall enough to blot out the sky. The house hadn't changed. Same sagging porch, same flickering bug light, same cracked window above the sink where Grandpa put his fist through it in '92. But Grandma had. Inside smelled like burnt coffee and old lemon cleaner. Not the bright kind. The kind that burns behind your nose. Bitter and chemical. Like something sour trying to cover something worse. The floor creaked more than I remembered. The hallway near the bathroom dipped a little, like the boards were soft underneath. Wallpaper bubbled and peeled near the seams. The living room window had duct tape over one pane, yellowed and curling at the corners like nobody had touched it since the Clinton years. She was in the recliner, same one Grandpa used to fall asleep in with a beer on his chest, blanket over her lap, ashtray full of loose screws beside her, TV off, just reflecting the window behind me in that gray, dead glass. "Hey, Grandma, it's me." No answer. She blinked slow, eyes cloudy like wet marble. "You probably don't remember I was coming. That's okay. I brought your pills and some groceries. Figured I'd stay a few days." Still nothing. Just that soft scratch of her nails picking at the blanket. Then, without turning, "You smell like your daddy." Her voice was thin, brittle, like wind through dry grass. Not warm, not angry, just factual. I gave a tired smile. That a good thing or a bad thing? She didn't answer. Her gaze stayed locked on the dark TV, like it was showing her something I couldn't see. I moved toward the kitchen to put the groceries away, left her sitting there in a chair. I was halfway through putting cans in the cupboard when I heard her voice again, low and quiet. "He came back. I told you he would." "No, don't start crying now. I told you, didn't I?" I peeked around the corner. She was still facing the blank TV, still alone, still whispering. I slept in the back room. Used to be my dad's when he was a kid. Twin mattress on a metal frame. Same thin yellow sheets with faded cowboy prints. Same dresser with the broken top drawer that always slid open a few inches on its own. The air back there felt wrong, heavy, like it didn't want to move unless you gave it permission. I cracked a window and laid down with my hoodie as a pillow. No fan, just that old stillness you only get in houses where people die slow. I could hear her down the hall for a while, mumbling, not loud enough to make out the words, just a steady drone, like someone praying underwater. At one point she laughed, sharp, sudden, like someone had whispered a joke in her ear. It stopped after a while. I guess she fell asleep. I tried to do the same. The dreams were strange. Pressure and heat, like something heavy was sitting on my chest. The sound of water running behind the walls. A breath that wasn't mine, brushing close to my ear. It didn't feel like sleep. It felt like being held under. I woke up with my heart hammering. The room was dark still, but the door was cracked open now. I know I closed it. For a second, I thought I saw something, a shape in the hallway. Short, slouched, leaning forward like it was listening. I sat up. Grandma? The shape shifted, stepped into the low light spilling in through the living room window. It was her, thin housecoat, eyes wide and glassy, arms limp at her sides, just standing there, staring at me like she didn't know who I was. I got up slow, eased toward her. You okay? You need something. She flinched when I got close. Didn't speak. Just turned and shuffled back down the hall barefoot, muttering something too low to catch. I watched her bedroom door close behind her. Didn't sleep much after that. She was quiet most of the afternoon. Sat in the recliner, watching static again. TV off, remote untouched, just staring at the glass. I cleaned a little, hauled some junk mail to the burn barrel out back. Tried not to look at the woods too long. They weren't scary, just dense, claustrophobic in the daytime, black by 5. I passed the bathroom on the way back to the guest room. Door cracked, light on. I heard snipping, quick, rhythmic, sharp little metallic bites. Snip, snip, snip. Grandma? No answer. I pushed the door open slow. She was sitting on the toilet lid, hunched over her lap, one hand holding a tissue, the other nail clippers. Her foot was up on a stool, bare, shaking. She wasn't trimming. She was cutting, all the way down, past the white, past the pink, into the bed. The big toe was already bleeding. The nail split and pulp jagged like cracked tile. She didn't flinch, just kept snipping, eyes unfocused, mouth moving with a little tune I couldn't place. Snip, snip, snip. Grandma, stop, you're gonna hurt yourself. She didn't look up. It grows back if you let it, just keeps coming back. Then she looked at me, real sudden, eyes wide, red-rimmed, well like she'd just been crying, except there were no tears, just that shaky smile people make when they've been alone too long. You've got your daddy's feet. I always hated that about him. She was different the next day, quieter, but twitchy, kept folding and unfolding a dish rag with her thumbs like she didn't know where she was. Her teeth clicked. She wouldn't eat. I offered soup, crackers, a protein shake. She wouldn't touch any of it, just stared at the window over the sink and said, "It's too cold for him out there. Don't want him stiff before we get the nails in." I stopped moving. She didn't even look at me. "Grandma, what?" She blinked, looked confused, looked at me, but through me. "Why'd you put your hair up like that for? You know how he gets." Then she started crying, real tears this time, covered her face and whispered, I'm sorry, over and over like she didn't know why. I helped her back to bed. She went easy, didn't fight or mutter, just let me tuck her in and stared at the ceiling like it was showing her something I couldn't see. She was out cold by 10. I couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet. That kind of quiet where you can hear it like pressure behind her ears. I left the door cracked, just a little, in case she called for me. Around 1:30, I heard movement, a soft creak, another. I thought she was up again, maybe headed to the bathroom, maybe just wandering. I stepped into the hall. Her door was still shut. The light was off, but the living room, the recliner was rocking, just slowly, a soft, steady cree, like a kid pushing themselves in time with a lullaby. Nobody was in it. I stared too long, didn't move. I walked up close, real slow, every board creaking like it didn't want me near. There was something on the cushion, not a coin, not a crumb, a fingernail, fresh, pale, split down the middle, the kind of rip that doesn't happen by accident. The rocking stopped a second. I picked it up. No wind, no movement, just the TV flickering blue in the corner, still unplugged. The next morning she was already awake, sitting stiff in her rocker like she'd never gone to bed at all. No TV, no radio, just a low scrape of her nails against the armrest. She was humming again, same tune as before, something slow, maybe a church thing, or maybe just something she made up. I brought her oatmeal, hoped the warmth might pull her back into herself. She didn't look up, They always name him, she said. Voice flat. Not talking to me. Just out loud. That's where it goes wrong. You give a name, you start thinking it means something. Don't give animals names. Makes it harder to bury them. She scooped a spoonful of oatmeal and brought it to her lips like nothing was wrong. Chewed. Swallowed. Looked at me. Finally, did you check the lock on the shed? The wind was up last night. I hadn't. Didn't even know it had a lock. I just nodded and said, yeah, I would. She smiled. Real soft. Almost proud. Then went back to humming. It was just after midnight when I heard the screen door creak. I hadn't been sleeping well. Dad's old mattress was rather thin. And the smell of that house, mothballs and old piss and something worse underneath, clung to the roof of my mouth no matter how many times I brushed my teeth. I sat up, wiped the sweat from my chest, listened. No wind, no bugs, just the hum of the fridge and the slow groan of something settling on the back deck. I cracked the curtain open. Grandma was out there, barefoot, nightgown hanging loose off one shoulder, standing still in the dark like she'd been poured into it. In her hands was shears, not kitchen scissors, not hedge trimmers, the old iron kind, the farm kind, rust like dried blood flaked down the handles, blades long enough to snip a chicken's head off clean. She wasn't cutting anything, just holding them, arms low and relaxed, like someone waiting their turn. She was humming again. I didn't go out, didn't call her name, just stood there, curtain pinched between my fingers, watching the soft sway of her shoulders as she turned and walked back inside. She never looked at me, but she set the shears on the kitchen counter before going back to bed. I didn't touch them. I couldn't. She died on a Thursday. No screams. No fall. Just gone. I found her in bed, curled into the blanket like a child. One hand tucked under her chin. Mouth slack. Eyes open. The hospice nurse said it was peaceful. I believed her. There wasn't a service. The county buried her next to Grandpa at the edge of Cold Creek Cemetery. No headstone, just a brass tag and a mound of disturbed dirt. No one else came. I stayed behind to pack the house. 3 days of dust, mildew, and silence thick enough to chew. Moth-eaten dresses, expired pills, jars of paper clips, sorted by size. Granny's mind had left long before her body did. Then I found the box, wrapped in butcher paper, duct tape peeling, tucked deep under her bed like a secret that didn't want to be remembered. Inside were photos, stacks of them, not Polaroids, not prints. These were darkroom developed, edge-curled, yellowed at the corners, decades old. They weren't family photos. No birthdays, no cookouts, just bodies, kneeling, bound, dressed in clothes that looked local, Cold Creek diner uniforms, Sunday dresses, feed store overalls. Some of them were gagged. All of them were hurt, eyes swollen, teeth missing, arms bruised from restraint. And in every third or fourth picture, Grandma, grinning, hair done, makeup heavy, holding a leather belt in both hands like she was about to teach a lesson. Then came the final photo. I swear I can still see it when I blink. She posed in a rocker like she wanted the photo to seduce someone. Legs open, lace clinging to her hips, a severed head nestled where a lover's face might go. One stocking was rolled down. Her panties were bunched around one ankle like she'd peeled them off slow. If the head wasn't there, I swear to God, that's when I noticed the background. Behind the chair, the shape of a window, a wooden wall, a hanging tool, the shed. Not just any shed. Her shed, the one behind the house, the one with a padlock so rusted it looked fossilized. I didn't think. I just grabbed a flashlight and headed for the door. The padlock came off with one tug. I don't think she even locked it. The door groaned on the hinge like something breathing shallow. I stood there for a second, flashlight trembling in my grip, breathing in mold and cold dirt. The shed wasn't big, maybe 10 by 10, but it felt deeper than it should have been, like there was weight in the air. Something that wanted to be left alone. I stepped inside. The light swept across stacked crates, rusted tools, a workbench stained the color of old liver. There were flies slow, drunken ones, buzzing in lazy loops. And then the jars. 4 of them. Mason jars. Dust-caked, unlabeled, sealed with wax. One held a shriveled tongue, gray and curled like something chewed and spat out. Another was full of teeth, floating like pearls in a yellow brine. The third had what looked like 3 fingers, swollen and pickled, the nails blackened and split. The last jar was worse. Not for what was in it, but what wasn't? Just murk, a fog of rot. I turned to the workbench. There was a wooden box with an old 8mm film reel inside, labeled in pen for later. Beside it, a roll of leather straps, stained dark, a pair of rusted shears, a folded apron, stiff with dried blood, not splatter, not a stain, soaked, front to back, like someone wore it while butchering something that screamed. I couldn't breathe. The shed smelled like pennies and vinegar and meat left in the sun. My knees buckled. I dropped to one hand, coughing into the dirt. There were scratch marks on the inside of the door, fingernail deep, like someone tried to claw their way out. And then I heard it, a creak, slow, rhythmic, from the house, from the rocking chair. The house was still dark when I stepped back inside. I didn't turn on any lights. There was no point. I already knew where the sound was coming from. The hallway stretched long and still, smelling like dust and boiled potatoes, and the faint copper whiff that clings to old women's hair. The closer I got to the living room, the more I could feel it, that wrong pressure, like the air was watching me. I turned the corner. The rocking chair was moving, back and forth, slow and even, no wind, no draft, just motion. There was no one in it, just that old, worn Afghan folded across the back, the one she always used to cover her knees, the one that still smelled like her. I didn't move, didn't breathe, and then her voice from the chair, low, close, warm like it used to be. You found my things, didn't you? I couldn't speak. Suppose you know now. The chair kept rocking. 1, 2, 3, then it stopped, just like that. The house went still. The chair's empty. But when I pass that room, it feels like she's grinning at me, like she's not done. Story 6. Nessie is not what we thought. No one ever really believes in the Loch Ness Monster anymore, do they? Since the first time it was introduced in a local newspaper in 1933 as a picture taken by 2 idiots and a really old camera, everyone and their mother has seen it. My question to you would be, how could a monster live for this long? I used to believe in Nessie when I was very young, watching TV shows like Monster Quest, which dragged in people to talk about the weird things they saw in the water. I loved everything sea monster, sea serpent, and dragon-like until I committed the unfortunate act of growing up. A part of me still loves the idea, even now. But considering where I am right now, I wish I had just stayed the fuck home. This story will sound fantastical. It'll sound like a hoax. It'll be exactly what those Monster Quest idiots thought would sound like a really convincing story when they brought those country folks in and stuck them in front of a washed-out 90s TV camera. I'm writing to keep myself from hyperventilating down here. So hear me out. Never, and I mean never, go out on a massive body of water with zero knowledge on how to drive a motorboat. Just trust me, it'll get better. I promise that I meant absolutely no harm when I stole the motorboat from my gracious hosts when they went out for dinner together. I promise that I wasn't that high when I was out on the water. Now, I know what you're thinking. Something along the lines of, you probably had some weed laced with something stronger and tripped so hard you thought you saw something. What I experienced wasn't a trip. I wish it was. The high itself was nice. It was from just a bit of weed baked lovingly into some of my favorite cookies. It was because of that mellow, calm feeling that made me feel that it made sense at the time that I could probably figure out how to drive a boat. People did it all the time, so why couldn't I? By the time I was on the water, I was experiencing some kind of euphoria. The moon was more beautiful than I had ever seen it, and its ivory light danced across the cold waters of the loch. I remembered thinking how my childhood self would be freaking out if she knew I was standing on a boat in the middle of the only place she had ever dreamed of seeing for the sole purpose of catching a glimpse of Nessie the hoax. I sat down by the edge of the boat and watched the water, entranced, with my arm dangling over the side, skimming the glimmering surface with the tips of my fingers. The cold felt delicious, and the freedom I could feel in my veins injected me with a sort of childlike, romantic joy. About 5 feet away from my hand, watching me from the water, was a large, top half of a human face. I don't remember what I did or how I reacted. All I can clearly recall in my memory was how large it was. It looked like a giant's head. Its nose and mouth were concealed by the inky water, but the eyes and forehead were visible. It had hair so black it looked like the water it floated in, and I remember distinctly how the scent of an off-smelling perfume wafted over me. The eyes were... I couldn't for the life of me tell you what color they were, how they were shaped, or how big they were. It's like they were erased from my memory. And all I feel when I try to think of them is a sense of wrongness, and the knowledge that what I was looking at I wasn't meant to see. I couldn't look away, though, and whether it was from fear or from fascination. I remember not being able to do much of anything other than stare with my heart in my throat. She wouldn't blink. I thought about how weird it was that she wasn't blinking, and then she spoke. "It's been a while." I sputtered in surprise at the volume. It was like she was speaking in my ear, and only then did I break out of my paralysis and scramble backwards into the center of the boat. She didn't move from the water. She only stared at me with those fucked up eyes. "Do we know each other?" I asked, not having the slightest idea of what to say. "No," she replied, the voice still as if it were right in my ear. It was smooth and silky, comforting. Oddly enough, it reminded me of my mother, and my rapidly pounding heart relaxed. Whatever she was, she had an effect on me, and that alone should have sent the alarm bells ringing, but it didn't. I slowly approached the side of the boat and got to my knees, gripping the cold metal of the railing and shivering slightly. Whether it was from the chill or the circumstances, I don't know. It's kind of late to be out swimming. I tried, hoping beyond all hope that this was just a very tall, creepy Scotland native out for a dip. A delicate, tinkling laugh floated through my mind, and I realized that whatever this thing was, it was speaking to me through some kind of telepathic link. Or I might have been higher than a kite. I don't really know anymore. "It's kind of late to be out in a boat that doesn't belong to you," she replied. It felt like a good idea at the time. Does it feel like a good idea still? That depends on whether or not you're real. What does me being real have to do with the fact you stole a boat? Wait, how did you know this boat is mine? Again, the laugh echoed in my head, and I leaned further over the boat, getting used to the odd, wrong eyes that looked up at me from the inky waters. "I know everything that goes on this lake," she explained very slowly. "I know the man who this boat belongs to, and I know his wife. I know everyone that comes to visit, and I know everyone that lives here, regulars to guests, to the animals that drink the fresh waters from the river that flows into the loch." "How?" I asked. "It's a secret." "Were you?" "That's also a secret. I'm good at keeping secrets." I attempted. "No, you're not," the creature said with a smugness I could hear without the expression to match it. "You're terrible at lying also, and you waited your whole life to see something remarkable, haven't you?" My body went stiff, and I felt the cold wind off the loch seeping through my jacket and teasing my already bristling skin. There was a muted sense of absolute danger itching at the back of my skull, but whatever kind of spell I was under had me rooted there, and I knew it, but oddly enough, I didn't really seem to care. I still don't. I appear to people who truly believe in something greater than themselves. She said, her wrong eyes boring into me. To the people with love in their hearts, the kind of people who want something extraordinary to exist not because they want to have proof, but because they want to experience it, to believe in it. I didn't know what to say. Less and less had come by lately. "You're Nessie," I heard myself say, my voice sounding distant to my own ears in comparison to the voice that spoke in my mind. "I am what you believe me to be. If you're what I believe you to be, why aren't you a giant plesiosaur or a massive sea serpent? You grew up." I blinked at her, and then I felt my heart begin to race as the rest of her slowly rose out of the water. I wasn't entirely sure what I was seeing, and I'm not entirely sure of it now. It was like trying to make sense of an abstract art piece that looked like several things at once. I'll do my best without trying to sound insane, okay? Imagine the head of the most beautiful woman you've ever seen. Think Keira Knightley or like Ana de Armas. And then connect it to the body of the biggest snake you've ever seen. Like a fucking jungle anaconda that'll swallow a crocodile. But instead of the big blotchy spots, it looks like it has the scales of a black dragon. I wasn't that high, I swear. Despite what I knew I was seeing, I couldn't deny that it was beautiful. The moonlight glinted off her scales and dazzled me with its brightness. My chest was hurting, and I couldn't tell if it was because of how heartbreakingly beautiful she was, or if I was terrified. In retrospect, I believe it was both. The eyes, the eyes. I remember the eyes holding me in place as the beautiful creature lowered itself to be eye level with me. Were you really? I asked, breathless. The creature didn't reply, but as she moved closer to me, all I could see were the eyes. I've been trapped here for centuries. She replied, her voice echoing through my mind like it was a wide open space. God, what color were her eyes? Bound to the water and forced to read the hearts of humans, to become their dreams, to embody their fears. Bound by what? I asked. My mouth hadn't moved, but still, the question was asked. Then, she said something I can't remember. Maybe I don't want to remember. Maybe my brain is blocking it out, so I can remain as sane as I can possibly be. But I don't know what good sanity will do me anymore outside of writing this down. The thing she said sounded more like a picture than a word, and it was so horrible my body reacted viscerally. I might have thrown up, I might have passed out, but all I remember is a soft command to hold my breath. The next thing I knew, I was here in the dark with my waterproof phone and a whole lot of skeletons. There's an underwater cavern system at the bottom of Loch Ness. Did you guys know that? There's a fun little air pocket down here that this thing's been living in for a while. Like a teapot, short and stout. God, there's a skull right next to me that I've been avoiding eye contact with, and I finally gave in just now. It's dark down here, and my phone is dying. Isn't that funny? It's always right before someone dies in the really scary horror movies that their last bit of light dies. Batteries go out, electricity gets cut off, phone lines go dead. There's no service at the bottom of Loch Ness, by the way, and it would be perfectly understandable if I wasn't about to fucking die down here. Who would I call? 911, what's your emergency? Have I got a weird story for you? I don't want to die down here. She's out there hunting, but she'll be back soon. And I'll end up just like the rest of these people who were dragged down just like me. There's no way out. Please. My name is Redacted, and my dad is Redacted. I live at Redacted, and I have 2 sweet cats who won't know where their mama is. Weirdly enough, just knowing that they won't know where I went makes me feel worse than the idea of my own mortality. I hear her. She's back. God, I hope it's quick. Her eyes are every color that's wrong in the world. Story 7. My Bigfoot encounter. I ain't much for writing, but I figured before I'd done anything too stupid, I ought to tell someone what led me to done it in the first place. My name's Jim Hetfield, and in the year of our Lord 1995, I saw what only could have been Bigfoot. One hot day, me and Axe figured we'd go trekking along the old dried-up creek, bed up there on OL Lady G's property. Now everybody knows that old coot don't like nobody going up on her land for nothing but Axe, and I, being bored as bankers, said to hell with it and chose to risk it. We'd probably only been walking around for about an hour or so before I realized just how quiet it was. I mean, there weren't no birds chirping or bugs buzzing, which in the middle of summer is pretty damn strange. Only thing heard was me and Axe's footsteps. Whole damn woods were as silent as a church on Tuesday. I tried joking Axe on how we'd probably be able to hear a squirrel fart a mile away, but when I ain't heard nothing from him, I noticed how uneasy I was, looking back at him. Turns out he was so quiet because he was right in the middle of the second most intense staring contest of his life. I tracked his eyes about 50 feet up the ridge to our right, and just barely peeking over the ridgeline was the biggest pair of brown eyes I'd ever saw. Only one thing living in those woods that big, but I knew there ain't no way it was a grizzly. From what little of the head I saw, it looked more like a gorilla, but more human. Axe barked out some fierce warnings, but if I could hear the fear in him, I know that thing could too. For a second, we actually thought that maybe the bastard got the message, cause he ducked out of there faster than a French man runs from a fight, but ain't 2 seconds later, he popped up again. This time, though, he weren't just peeking over. I saw now clear as day that standing up on that ridge was unmistakably the legendary creature Bigfoot. Now don't get me wrong, I ain't no pussy or nothing, but when that feller gave us a warning of his own, I damn near passed out from fear. I ain't even had the time to soil myself before I'd seen Axe took off hauling, as back way we came, and I figured a pretty good idea to join him. Me and him tore through them woods like drunk loggers, tripping over every rock and tree branch along the way. At some point Bigfoot must have started chasing us, cause the whole time we're running. From right behind we'd hear low, deep grunts and could smell the strongest scent of rotting garbage. When I finally made it to that wood's edge and broke through them trees, I felt relief like no other, but I still ain't stopped running. Seems like Bigfoot don't like going past the tree line, cause he stopped his chase right there, but not before he let out the longest, loudest whistle, as a sort of finale warning, I guess. For years after the run in me, an Axe could hear knocks and bumps on our house every damn night. Guess he don't have any trouble leaving the woods at night. The noises stopped around the same time Axe had died. I'd let him outside one day to use the bathroom, but he just never ended up coming back. I say died and not missing, because I went looking for him that same day and ended up finding him curled up at the base of a pine. Weren't no cuts or scratches on him, just a broken neck. I know Bigfoot's the one that killed my dog, and I'll be damned if I ain't gonna return the favor. If I survive, I'll let y'all know, but if I don't, please bury me next to my best friend. Story 8. I was just doing the dishes. Hey guys, I need some advice. I, 16F, was left home alone tonight. My parents go on a date every other week, and tonight was one of those nights. Before leaving, they left me with a small chore list. I had to do the few dirty dishes, a load of laundry, and vacuum the living room. Dishing are by far my least favorite, so I decided to do them first. I waved them goodbye and ran straight up to my room to grab my headphones, an essential for doing the dishes. I pulled out my phone, put my headphones on, and started blasting my music. I started rinsing all the dishes while jamming out to some Taylor Swift. As I was in the middle of cleaning, the lights flickered a few times. I thought that it was nothing, as our house is over 100 years old and the wiring is a little finicky. A few minutes later, they turned off for around 10 seconds, then turned back on. That was a bit strange, but I shrugged it off. After a few more minutes, I finished the dishes and turned around, leaning against the sink as I stretched. What greeted me was my adorable puppy laying on his bed. I gave him some lovings before heading to the laundry room. The rest of the night was boring. I threw the laundry in the washer, vacuumed, watched TV, moved the laundry into the dryer, and got ready for bed. It was around 9 p.m. when I finally climbed into my warm and comfy bed. Wait, why is my bed warm? I don't have an electric comforter, and my dog wasn't in my bed. I quickly got up and turned my lights on, looking around the room. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary other than my closet being slightly ajar. I chalked it up to mere coincidence, assuming I accidentally left it like that. I sat back on my bed and pulled out my phone. Hey, Mom, I'm a little freaked out. When are you and Dad coming home? I texted my mom. The typing bubble appeared for a few seconds before she responded. The car broke down 30 minutes away. We called the towing company, and your uncle will probably be at least an hour. What happened? She texted back. Damn it. I thought out loud before typing my response. Nothing. Just had one of those weird feelings, you know? Yeah, I understand. Call me if anything happens or if you just need talk. Okay? I love you. I text her in agreement and put my phone down, tapping my foot on the floor nervously. There's no way someone is in my home, right? I mean, I would have realized, wouldn't I? Wait, no, I wouldn't have. If they came in while I was doing the dishes. Shit, I exclaimed, freaking myself out even more. The sink is facing a wall, and I had my headphones on. Someone would have easily slipped past my back, I thought to myself. I tried calming myself down with a few deep breaths. Maybe I was just going crazy. I'm just psyching myself out is all. I pushed the feelings of dread aside and laid back in bed. 10 minutes passed, then 15, then 20. I couldn't get to sleep. My eyes were wide open, fear overwhelming me. I sat up and turned the lights on again. Okay, I'll just call my mom. I said out loud to no one as I typed her number into my phone. It rang once, it rang twice, it rang a third time. Your call had been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. Damn it, I yelled. She said to call her if I needed her, and she didn't answer. Cree. A few seconds after my swear, I heard it, a creaking noise coming from my closet. I wasted no time in standing up and bolting out of my room, closing the door behind me in the process. I ran as quickly as I could to the only place I knew to hide, the bathroom closet. They would check the rooms nearby, and the bathroom was the furthest. If I can get there quick enough and call the cops, maybe I'll have the time to wait them out. I reached the bathroom door and closed it softly behind myself, locking the door and pushing a chair up under the doorknob. I quickly climbed into the closet and shimmied my way behind all the towels and toiletries. Once settled into my hiding spot, I pull out my phone and call the cops. They send officers to my house and say that they'll arrive in 10 minutes and to stay silent until then. Okay, I can do that. To pass the time and to keep myself from sobbing, I open Reddit and start typing this. So my question is, what should I do in this situation? What if the cops don't arrive in time? What if? Update, don't worry guys. I'm okay. The person found me, but it's okay. He was nice enough to let me live, as long as I do whatever he says, whenever he says. It's been 10 days, and he let me have my phone back for being such a good girl. I decided to finish this post before he takes it again. Don't come looking for me. I'm starting to like it here. Martha, John, if you guys see this, I love you guys. You were the best parents I could ask for. But you shouldn't have stolen me from that hospital. I know your child died in delivery, but you made my real dad upset. And now, he says he's coming for you guys. Story 9. Something mimicked my voice. I live in a small town in the Oklahoma Panhandle. I'm not really a social guy, and I left my family to move here because it's quiet. Nothing ever really happens until it did. At the time, I was 17. I never believed in anything paranormal. I liked cryptid stories, but that was just for fun. I didn't think they were real. I'm not on drugs. I wasn't hallucinating. I've tried to forget what I saw, but it still finds me in my dreams. Behind my trailer is a 6 to 7 foot metal fence. It rattles in the wind, but it's strong. 10 feet beyond that are other trailers. But the weird part is behind the fence, a dirt mound, a small ditch, and a patch of dying trees and dead grass. Nothing really there, except a cemetery, maybe 20 yards out. Fenced in. Old. I sleep in the back room of my trailer. My room faces the fence and has a full wall of windows. From my bed, I can just barely see the tombstones over the fence. My vision's not great, but I can tell they're there. One night, I was up late working on a school assignment, high on caffeine. I had a YouTube playlist of skinwalker and cryptid stories playing in the background. Nothing unusual. Then I heard my dogs growling outside. Not strange. They sometimes bark at my cats who jump on the roof. But this time, they started whimpering. Then came silence. Total. Still. Silence. I looked out and saw something bolt past the dirt mound. It was tall, taller than the fence. I swear it had sunken. Red eyes. It moved fast and disappeared. I tried to brush it off. Caffeine. Sleep deprivation. But when I finally lay down to sleep, I heard a voice. My voice, clear as day. It said, "Brody." That's my neighbor's dog. Then I heard a yelp, a horrible, sharp cry. Then nothing, the same dead silence. I wanted to cry. I hadn't said a single word all day. Something out there had heard me before, and it could sound like me. The next morning, I heard my neighbor screaming. She was crying, hysterical. I ran out the back door and saw it. Brody was dead. His head was bitten off, and his body was jammed in the gate between our yards. My neighbor passed out from the shock. I jumped the fence and called 911. The cops told us it was probably a coyote. I didn't believe it, not even for a second. My neighbor moved out a few days later. Her dad had cancer, and she wanted to be closer to him. I helped her pack. I dropped her off at the airport. She took everything. Her trailer was left empty. That night, I heard her voice. "Peter, come out. I made some dinner." That's what she said from behind the fence. Same soft voice, same tone, but she never called me Peter. Always handsome, or something like that. And I knew she was gone. Then I heard something hop the fence. The silence returned. Heavy, unnatural. I held my breath, afraid that even a sound would give me away. Then came the tapping. Something tapped on my window with what sounded like a bony finger. I cracked one eye open. I saw it, the same tall figure, except this time it was wearing her skin, like it had tried to become her, but didn't get it quite right. It didn't see me. My room was a mess, clothes everywhere. I think it couldn't tell where I was in the chaos. Eventually, around 4:02 a.m., it jumped back over the fence and disappeared. The next morning, while I was packing to leave, I heard the news. My neighbor had been found dead in a ditch near the airport. She never made it to her flight. Whatever that thing was, it knew she died, and it used her voice, her face, to try to lure me out. I'm 20 now. I live in New York with my family. I've never spoken about this out loud. I'm scared that if I say its name, if I even think about it too much, it'll come back. But I can't forget it, because it wore her skin, and it used my voice. Story 10. I was recalled for a Pale Wake event. I'm not coming back. I was halfway through unpacking when they called. 2 years retired, and I still jump whenever my phone rang. Bad habits from a bad career, I guess. But this call didn't come from any number I recognized. Just a scrambled string of digits and a voice I hadn't heard since my last debriefing. Edward. The phone on the voice said, "You're being reactivated." I swallowed hard. It was a surprise, really. I'd been waiting for the day they pulled me back in. We used to call it the retirement mission. One last job you don't get to refuse. You think you're finally free of the order. And the phone rings and you remember, you were never out. You leave in 3 hours. Bring nothing personal. Transportation is arranged. I ask where I'm going, just out of instinct, not expectation. You'll be briefed on the way. This is Pale Wake authorized. Then the line cut. I stood in the silence for a long minute, staring at the wall. I had never seen a Pale Wake clearance in action, only in redacted files and whispered rumors. A global extinction level protocol. The kind of thing you think is theoretical until it isn't. 3 hours later, I was on a boat with one bag and a name I hadn't spoken in over a decade. The air was thick with salt and something colder than sea wind. The fog started early and the island didn't show up on any chart. But I knew where we were going. Everyone in the order knows the lighthouse eventually. The boat was small. Inside, just me, the pilot, and a few covered crates tied down under a tarp. I tried to start a conversation once or twice, but the man at the wheel didn't speak. He looked like he'd been doing this route his whole life. Calm, detached from reality. Probably former order himself. They don't use civilians for deliveries like this, only trusted personnel. After a while, I gave up on small talk and stared out into fog. It was thick enough to make the horizon disappear. There were no waves or sound, just the hum of the engine and a cold pressure in my chest that didn't seem to disappear. The boat rocked gently as we moved forward, and I let my thoughts drift, not because I wanted to, but because the silence gave me no other choice. It's strange that the mind clings to when there's nothing to distract it, isn't it? I didn't think back to the missions or subjects I encountered, neither to the briefings printed in red ink and sealed in wax, not even the containment breaches. I thought about Ellis. He was the first senior agent I shadowed, back when I still believed the Order had rules. He was sharp and quiet, not the kind who gave speeches, but he still made you listen. People said he'd seen things at Facility Oxford and never fully recovered from that. He taught me everything I know today: how to survive, thrive in the Order, how to handle the silence, how to recognize when something is watching, not with eyes, but with intent. Trust the silence more than the sound, he used to say. I thought it was cryptic nonsense back then. Now, with this fog pressing in on all sides, I understand. What's missing tells you more than what's there. I hadn't thought about him in years. He vanished in '09 mid-assignment. We were told he'd been reassigned to remote observation. That was Order jargon for never ask again. And now, they're sending me to the lighthouse. The lighthouse, the one that needs supervision at all times. The one no one leaves. I wondered, not for first time, if Ellis ended up there. Am I now being sent to remote observation like he was? Does that mean he died there, and am I going to? I closed my eyes, trying to quiet my thoughts. Breathe, Edward. It'll be fine. The island rose out of fog, like a bruise. There was no dock, just a black stone slick with algae and a rusted metal ladder bolted to the side. The boatman said nothing when I looked at him. He just pointed up. I climbed in silence. Cold wind bit at my knuckles, and the ocean below was too still. I half expected to hear waves or gulls, but there was only the slap of wet boots against the ladder. The climb wasn't long, but it still felt endless. At the top, the island stretched no more than a few hundred feet in any direction. There was a single footpath leading to the only structure on the island, the lighthouse. It stood like a monolith swallowed in fog, old stonework patched with rusted plates. Its glass eye was dark, the metal housing around it cracked and weather-torn. I didn't wait for a welcome. The door groaned on its hinges. Inside I was met with a narrow corridor where only one person could fit. My nose filled with the smell of dust and rot. I heard a dull clang from above me, then a wet, dragging noise like something was being pulled out of the water. I froze, one hand on the stair rail, and waited. Nothing. I took the stairs slowly, my steps groaning under my weight. The dragging didn't return. At the top, the observation deck was empty. There were no signs of anything I'd heard from below. No movement or footprints. Not even water. Whatever had made the noise, it was gone now. Or never there at all, I'm not sure. Back down, I checked the living quarters. There wasn't much to them. Just a bed, a rust-stained sink, and a stove with a pot still on the burner. I also found a hatch leading to the generator room. And then, the body, slumped at the desk, collapsed across the logbook, his skin tight over bone, clothes rotted but recognizable beneath the dust. I was right. For all these years, I knew it. It was Ellis. He hadn't aged much. Or, more precisely, not in the way you'd expect after over a decade. His beard had been white before he vanished. Just deeper lines now. After a solemn prayer, I looked down at the open page of the logbook. The last entry was scrawled in a hand I remembered from field reports and briefing memos. The fog isn't moving anymore. I hope they send someone. We need to keep it at bay. I closed the book and stepped back. Above me, the light remained off. I felt the fog pressing against the glass, waiting to be let in. I didn't sleep that night. I don't even think I sat down. I stayed near the main corridor, checking the glass on the upper levels every hour, watching the fog, seeing if they come closer. The light remained off, and I couldn't get the generator working. The backup batteries better last. I thought to myself, by morning, if it was morning, visibility dropped to near zero. The fog has grown so thick it pressed against the window, almost bursting in. I couldn't see 10 feet from the upper deck, and yet I kept feeling it. Movement, not physical or measurable, just a shift in the fog. The same way you feel a figure behind you in a mirror, or a shape beneath the ice. God knows I know a lot about this. It circled the entire tower with pressure. Each time the structure creaked, I tensed. Each time the hallway lights flickered, I reached for the wrench propped beside the panel. Eventually, the backup batteries began to fail. A low warning tone echoed up the stairwell before humming, one light at a time. Click, click, click. The emergency corridor went dark. I headed down, fast. The generator room was soaked with water. Was there a breach somewhere? Condensation poured down the walls like veins. Then I saw the cables, coiled around the base of the generator, slick, black, and wrapped around the entire room like roots. They throbbed, not electrically, but organically. I stepped closer, aiming to inspect them. The cables twitched ever so slightly, a rhythmic throb. I didn't know what they were, but I know what they weren't. They weren't ours. Something had grown them, or invited them. The light hadn't failed. It had been cut off. Suddenly, Ellis's last words hit me harder than they should have. The fog isn't moving anymore. I hope they send someone. We need to keep it at bay. Not kill it, not make it disappear or wait for it to dissolve, but keep it at bay. This place wasn't meant to contain anything. It wasn't a simple order structure like a facility. It was made to suppress it, delay it, and something had found a way to interfere. I reached for the manual override, but hesitated. The breathing cables hissed beneath my boots. If I restart the generator, I might trigger something worse. A feedback surge, blowout, or in the worst case, a containment breach. But if I waited any longer, the backup batteries would die, and then it wouldn't matter. I counted backwards from 5, then tore the cables free. The room screamed, not the metal or machinery, but the entire tower did. Upstairs, the beacon housing cracked. A low tone rumbled through the walls. I heard banging at the windows, like the fog was pressing up against it even harder. I sprinted up the stairwell as the tower convulsed, doors slamming open one by one as I passed, water pouring out of them. I reached the main terminal. Power flickered once, then twice. Then the light came on. It wasn't gentle. It struck like the beam sliced of the fog with a scalpel. I saw something within the fog shudder. It recoiled, but it wasn't a creature. That would be simple for me to comprehend. I've seen dozens of those in my years in the Order. This was something else. Something like a distortion. A fold in the world that shouldn't be there. For a second it looked like a ship, then a face. Then me. The beam swept over it again, and it was gone. I don't know what it was, but I know it saw me. And the light kept spinning. And since then, it never stopped. I made sure it wouldn't. The fog didn't completely retreat, but I did manage to keep it at bay. As Ella said, the pressure lifted, both from the tower and from me. The cables in the generator room didn't grow back. I check all the systems daily, confirm power levels. All stable, at least for now. Ellis's logbook was still on the desk. I turned to the earlier pages. One's too faint to read before in the dark, and I read it all. There always has to be one. The light doesn't destroy the thing in the fog. It keeps it asleep. Barely. It doesn't care about the lighthouse. It watches the people inside it. Automated systems fail. They don't emit the same resonance. Presence is what matters, and it knows the difference. Further down, if you're reading this, you already know. They only send the ones who won't walk away. The loyal. The ones who've seen enough not to let it out. You'll stay because you have to. You understand. Because who else could they send? I closed the logbook. No ceremony or orders like they usually do. Just the truth. Coming straight from Ellis. I found it rather poetic. There was a closet at the base of the stairs. I found a long coat inside of it, which I deduced to be Ellis's. I put it on. The fabric fit, like it had always been mine. I cleaned the lenses that evening, checked the beacon timing, repaired what I could from the backup systems. The fog hasn't thickened since, and I've been here for quite some time now. But I still feel it out there, expectant, waiting for an opportunity to attack. The order hasn't called, and they won't. That was my last conversation with them. They made sure of it. They sent someone who wouldn't let the world burn. And now, I wear Ellis's coat. I sit where he once sat, and I watch the fog, turning the light, waiting for it to move again. Because deep down, I know this. It's not the lighthouse that keeps the thing in the fog contained. It's me.